welcome to the FF Forge. I hope you all had a happy Halloween. It is time for Waiver Wire Tuesday. It's really not a super exciting waiver wire this week. It was mostly a matter of shuffling things around. I am not going to wait until after the Monday night game this week. That sets me a little bit behind schedule in other areas anyways. So if any major changes to the waiver wire were to occur, then I will post those in the comments section. I'll pin that up there so you can just check down there if there's a comment to see if all of a sudden Harrison Bryant's at the bottom of the tight ends or at the top. Well, probably not the top, but maybe he can move up a spot. So that is that in this show. Before we get to the waiver wires, which you can just go down into the chapter markers and move to there if you would like, I will just be going through some quick headlines, updates on injuries that came through on Monday, just those types of things. You can also just read ahead of me. But I like to read everything off in case somebody's just listening along. So before we get to that, just a reminder, every Sunday you can come visit me for Start Sit, and of course, on Wednesday, all of my rankings videos will come out through the day, so look forward to that. Let's just get right into this, move along here. As far as the news and notes goes, we'll start off with the top here. Kansas City says that they will not be rushing integrating Kadarius Toney into that offense. Whatever that exactly means, I don't know, but it doesn't sound the best for fantasy football. So just a heads up, hedge any expectations if you are the person in your league who has picked him up or is thinking about it. And then Jonathan Taylor twisted his ankle in the game on a Sunday, and that will be monitored. There wasn't really too much more information, which is probably a better sign than not for that. PJ Walker gets the start again this coming weekend. And as far as what that means for DJ Moore, well, more so on the recap video of all the games yesterday. Go check that out if you want to hear just one quick thing on each of the teams and each of the games. I hope I didn't dog DJ Moore too much in what I said, and so I just want to clarify that I'm not saying that DJ Moore is a must-sit or anything like that. He's a perfectly fine start depending on the matchup. I just don't believe that he's the wide receiver one like he has appeared to be since PJ Walker came in. More of a back-end wide receiver two who's making an argument to be a top-end wide receiver too if he can continue that this weekend. So that is where I'm at. Like, if we were doing preseason rankings right now, just based on how the teams, based on where we were at preseason, except now Carolina looks like this, DJ Moore would probably be ranked by most people right around where Brandon Cooks was ranked. Cooper Kupp is day-to-day with his injury, so overall good news there. Gus Edwards, similar day-to-day with his hamstring injury. Irv Smith did have a high ankle sprain, so he'll be out for a few weeks at the very least here. Then Mark Ingram, they're expecting to be out 3 to 4 weeks. Devontae Parker is only supposed to be out for one game at the most, and they have a bye in 2 weeks, week 10. So that is part of the reason for that estimation for Devontae Parker. Chuba Hubbard says that he is likely to be coming back this week. Players and saying what their injury status is not always the most trustable source. But I think he was possible to come back this last weekend. So who knows, but probably true. Then Rashad Bateman is expected to be missing a few weeks. Is he a drop candidate? Yeah, sure. You could drop Rashad Bateman. Think of him as a high-end stash right now. You do not need to drop him if you have the ability to hold him for playoff time, essentially, then do so. But if you need to drop him, don't feel too bad about that. Mark Andrews, his injuries are minor, as we were told yesterday. He is quite banged up at this point. Luckily, they also have a bye week in week 10, so hopefully he can get healthier for then. I'm expecting to see him out there this weekend, but we'll see on that. Then, as far as Darren Waller goes, Las Vegas is doing everything that they can do to make sure that he is fully healthy before getting him out on the field. That is very clear right now. They pretty much said as much in a conference, I think, today. Don't be super surprised if he's not in there this coming weekend. Looks like they're really being careful with him, so that's good on some levels. Sucks if you need him in fantasy, though. And then Swift expects his role to increase as he gets healthier. I would expect that to happen in increments. I don't think that will mean this coming weekend. His role will increase to whatever the top amount of usage is. And I said in the recap video, too, about Swift that, he shares the backfield with Jamal Williams. Expect that to happen in increments over the next, I would say, like 2 weeks, and in 3 weeks he should be at what we could expect him to be at going forward. But if there are any setbacks in the meantime, then obviously that would be a setback. And then Zeke is not going to be losing his role to Pollard. Just ask the head coach. Oh, wait, no. Just ask the GM, Jerry, because he says that they go as Zeke goes. And Cordero Patterson is eligible to return this week. Does that mean he's returning this week? Who knows? But he is eligible. So if you are going to be relying on Tyler Algier or Caleb Huntley, for God's sake, then you should have a backup plan just in case Cordero Patterson comes back, because it's possible. Christian Watson is in concussion protocol. He was injured in last night's game. Roquan Smith was traded to Baltimore. What does that mean for these defenses? Well, Chicago's been a sneaky, tough defense up until this last weekend. They got rid of one piece of their defense, a veteran who some people said he wasn't very important to the defense, but I think we saw them just get torched, probably have their worst performance without him. Now they're without another piece there right in the heart of the defense. I expect Chicago's defense to be a cakewalk going forward, to some extent at least, to be much worse than they have been, and I expect Baltimore's defense to be better. They have a lot of good names and talent, and up until last year, I think around the midpoint of last season, they were good, and then injuries happened, and they just haven't gotten things clicking. So maybe Roquan Smith is the piece that they need to be a dominant defense. It's definitely possible. So I would go so far as to calling the Baltimore defense a stash if they're available in your league, or depending on their matchup, use this coming week. Then Josh Palmer and Donald Parham returned to practice today on Monday, so yesterday, if you're listening. As far as Josh Palmer goes, that's good news, because they need they need wide receivers. Now, Josh Palmer is not the natural fill-in for Mike Williams. Jalen Guyton would have been that guy, but they don't have Jalen Guyton. So Josh Palmer, I'm sure, will be out there. It's probably going to be a much different looking offense than it has been for some time. And I do expect that both of those tight ends, Everett and Donald Parham, are going to be a big part of that new game plan that they're going to have to go with. You know, I'm not the head coach. I don't make these decisions, but I'm trying to predict it. And that would be my expectation. Actually, with Donald Parham coming back, if that offense was fully healthy, I would be saying that you can no longer rely on Everett. But with Mike Evans out, I think it's going to be a bit more of a dink and dunk offense, and those tight ends will help out with that. Both of them, I'm sure. So I think they'll split a larger target share, and already wasn't a bad target share for tight ends there. So that's it for those. Just a reminder this week for bye weeks: Cleveland, Dallas, Denver, New York Giants, Pittsburgh, San Francisco. So if you need waivers, you have guys on those teams, quite a few of them. Also, something brought up, I think 2 weeks ago, maybe it was for last week, but don't be afraid to not pick up a guy on waivers and get yourself a top waiver claim for anybody that gets dropped this week from teams that are desperate to fill a spot and they have to drop somebody of some sort of value. Always possible. So with 6 teams off, that's a good week for that. Next week, week 10, Baltimore, Cincinnati, New England, and the New York Jets all have byes. So plan ahead, especially if you have defenses. Maybe not kickers, defenses, quarterbacks on these teams. It never hurts to plan ahead. So let's start off with the quarterbacks. Right up here is my drop list. Maybe not in perfect order of who I would drop first, but I tried my best to put it in that order. So I think Stafford is the one that I would be the most willing to drop at this point. I did like some things that I saw from that offense, like that they're trying to do, but it only seemed to work for about half of the game, so I don't know if they abandoned that, if they didn't like how it was or was not working out for them, if the defense caught onto it and was able to stop it. I don't know, but there were some signs of them trying to fix this offense that I liked, getting Allen Robinson a little bit more involved early on, those types of things. So there is some hope yet there, maybe, and Van Jefferson didn't really get involved. I expect him to help that offense, so we'll see, especially if Kupp's out. That's going to hurt, and that would hurt Stafford. Going up against Tampa Bay, Arizona, New Orleans, nothing really spicy there to say, oh, I really want Stafford. Of course, Tampa Bay's got quite the beat-up defense, so, Deeper quarterback leagues or something like that, maybe you could kind of trust Stafford this coming week. Then I have Carr next on the list. Once again, just nothing like I don't see a ceiling that I am excited to hold on to him for. You could drop him if you wanted to. Rodgers would be higher on this list, but he faces Detroit this week, so obviously that's a smash matchup. And Dallas, really not a good matchup. Tennessee, probably a good matchup, especially if they can get the passing game. Yeah, Tennessee might not be a great matchup for them because Tennessee is really good against the run, bad against the pass. Packers, bad against the pass. Bad passing, good rushing. So we just had that scenario week 7, and it didn't end up panning out. And then Philadelphia, rough matchup. So, yeah, rough sledding for Rodgers. And then for Brady, same story here, going up against the Los Angeles Rams next week. They've been pretty easy to pass against this season, tough to run against, and then a Seattle and a bye. So really don't love that schedule for a quarterback who's been struggling. Don't really see the ceiling there. And then Russell Wilson has a bye this week, and then Tennessee and Las Vegas, so actually 2 pretty decent matchups. So that is why he's at the bottom of this list. He's been looking a little bit better as of late, and after the bye week, he's got some decent matchups to work with. So don't need to drop Russ right now. Then I am here to tell you to hold on to Trevor Lawrence. They've got Las Vegas, Kansas City, then a bye week. Then they're going up against Baltimore, Detroit, Tennessee, then Dallas, New York Giants, Houston. That's the rest of the schedule here. So especially in this short term, a lot of ceiling work. Baltimore just might have gotten to be a tougher matchup, but yet to be seen, so you never know. Now, on to the waiver wire options. Starting off with Justin Fields in my number 1 spot, going up against Miami, Detroit, Atlanta. So, love him for these next 3 weeks, and then things get rough from there. He has shown that he can still perform with his feet in rough matchups just this last 2 weeks. So, even then, might not need to drop him after those 3, but really, really good matchups there coming up. Marcus Mariota, had him on this list forever, same with Justin Fields. And got to continue saying him because nobody trusts putting him out there and actually playing him or even making a roster spot for him. But his season-long schedule is fine. Atlanta does not have a tough schedule, so don't be afraid to do it. Then Jimmy Garoppolo dropped a few spots this week. Just mostly they have a bye right now. Then they have the Chargers, Arizona. Some upside to those matchups. So looking bright in the future there, but you don't need to. If he's still out there, he's probably not getting picked up this week. And, you can make him a Sunday pickup or something and hold on to somebody and drop him then. Then Jameis Winston / Andy Dalton here. Part of the reason they're down here is because don't know which one it will be. Said a couple weeks ago that they were waiting for Jameis Winston to get back to completely full health before they will play him. And who knows how long that might be. So they play against Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Los Angeles Rams. Now this looked much better a few weeks ago. This may not be as spicy of a lineup here as it appeared just even before today, going up against Baltimore next week. So yeah, I still like him. Daniel Jones is a great piece if you like to have 2 quarterbacks and play the matchups. If you're looking for a second guy in there, you want to get rid of one of those drop candidates that I had. Daniel Jones, check out his schedule, going up against Washington twice in there. He's got very good matchups and then some quite tough matchups. I think Dallas and Philadelphia are both in there. And he does have a bye this week, so you could probably get away with leaving him on the waiver wire this week, just like I talked about with Jimmy G. But Daniel Jones, like I was starting to say, if you have a quarterback already on your roster, check their schedules out, see how they line up, see if some of those good matchups line up with tougher matchups for that guy, because he could be a great second quarterback on a team. Then Jared Goff going up against Green Bay, Chicago, the New York Giants, Buffalo. Like I just spoke about, Chicago just might have gotten all that much better of a matchup, but not really great matchup, so he has been slowly falling down my list here each week as his schedule starts to get a little less juicy looking. And then Deshaun Watson, it's that time that you could pick him up and stash him. He is set to come back after week 11-week suspension, and the don't love the schedule right out of the gate. But weeks 15 through 17 sees Baltimore, New Orleans, and Washington. Once again, looked juicier up until earlier today on Monday, but definitely some potential upside there for the playoffs that you could get with Deshaun Watson. But it's going to be tough to trust him early. You got to be in a good position to be stashing Deshaun Watson, in my opinion. Now let's move on to the running backs, and I've decided to bring in some drop/trade candidates. Maybe Tyler Algier was you could trade him, maybe, probably, or Darrell Henderson would be a tradable. Might have some commodity, although might have missed that window. As somebody who's been thinking about trading him all season, I definitely missed that window. But Tyler Algier, Elijah Mitchell, Cam Akers, you could drop all of them. Tyler Algier, obviously, that's totally dependent upon Cordero Patterson. I'm actually not 100% sure why I added him onto this list already, but maybe I just wanted to bring that up. Even though I just did this like an hour ago. Then Elijah Mitchell is on IR. What's he coming back to? I don't know. So you can open up that IR spot for somebody else if you need to. Cam Akers, I don't know why people are holding on to him. And Darrell Henderson, he's, if he had less ownership, he'd be somewhere in this list in the bottom half of it. And as far as Chase Edmonds goes, don't make me put him on the top of this list because I don't want to, but that's a very valuable spot there behind Raheem Mostert in Miami with that offense. It's a great offense to be on. So if any injuries happen, Chase Edmonds, immediately his value will skyrocket. He's a great backup running back to hold on to. And then I don't understand how Khalil Herbert fell under the 50% owned mark in ESPN, but he did. So Khalil Herbert makes the top of my list. He might even be the pseudo starter there in Chicago, I think. And then Latavius Murray I have second up on the list. Once again, might be the more valuable running back in that backfield anyways. And Kenyon Drake, obviously with Gus Bus, his questionability, he jumps up this list just a little bit higher. Yeah, he's a good option, especially if you need him as somebody in the short term this week. He wouldn't be bad to grab and then drop for somebody else if you needed to. Rashad White is always going to be up here. One of the most valuable backups also to have. James Cook, so he's a stash option who you could play in a pinch if you really, really needed to. He's been getting, some work, enough work. And then James Cook, I've been seeing his role increase. Looks pretty good too. And that team has been looking for another running back, apparently. Rumors are that they contacted for Christian McCaffrey, and then who else? He was linked to another running back, maybe Kareem Hunt, but I feel like it was somebody else. So they just, poor Singletary just must not feel loved there. They've drafted two, I think both of them also third-rounders. Singletary was a third-round draft pick. He's done fine for them, but they just must not be happy with it. Wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the season, James Cook is the leading rusher. It could happen any week here. Then Chuba Hubbard and Isaiah Pacheco wanted to compare them as options back-to-back because they're just, I think, roughly equal value to me. Isaiah Pacheco was named the starter the last week that Kansas City played, so don't forget about that. So he is my ceiling play. Think about touchdown opportunities, just like a Singletary in Buffalo. You get a ceiling when you're on those offenses because multiple touchdown games can happen, as we've seen happen with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. But as we also see, it cannot happen just like all of last season. And then Chuba Hubbard is your floor guy. If you just need points for sure coming up, looks like Chuba Hubbard will be coming back. He might have even had the role ahead of Deontay Foreman in week 1 before he got injured. But then he got injured, and Deontay's done really, really well in his absence. Should still be a split once he comes back. Cameron Williams should be the number 1 running back for the Los Angeles Rams. Whenever he comes back, you can put him on IR, so he's a great stash. Caleb Huntley, if Cordero Patterson is not playing, he would not be the worst option to play this week, dependent on the matchup. Did not check that out. But as we know, they don't really have a rough schedule, so it's probably a fine matchup. Alexander Madison is always a great backup to have. Zamir White, Dontrell Hilliard. You can see this list here. So these are all just great backup guys to have. Yeah, they're all backups. So if an injury to a starter were to happen, their values go up. Actually, Jerick McKinnon's the only one, not necessarily number one in line to get. His workload would increase, but you could also just use him in a pinch if you need to. Now on to the wide receivers, and Robert Woods is the only drop candidate that I wrote down, but there are other receivers there that are droppable, but I'm almost advocating that you could drop Robert Woods. I would say you could drop Robert Woods for any of these guys. I would rather have any of these guys on my roster right now than him. Robert Woods, if he was he would probably be down in this group if he was on the waiver wire. Down in the Nico Collins, Corey Davis, Tyquan Thornton, Elijah Moore, Robbie Anderson, Jarvis Landry group. So this is the group of potential, but maybe unlikely potential. Yeah, that's pretty much. They're the unlikely potential group. So that'd be Robert Woods home. And let's start at the top here. These are the guys who are definitely worthy of being on rosters. Rondale Moore, Wan'Dale Robinson, Romeo Doubs. Obviously, we saw that workout this week. They don't have many options, especially with Allen Lazard out. So it's wide open there for players to do something. Then Devin Duvernay, Josh Palmer, Isaiah McKenzie, Jahan Dotson, Michael Gallup. Also, Christian Watson, Van Jefferson, and Treylon Burks. I want to see what Van Jefferson's on-field percentage was. I don't know if he didn't get used at all this weekend or how that ended up working out, but I know he was activated for the game, so I was kind of curious that he didn't get a single target or anything. And Christian Watson, you could see the disappointment on Aaron Rodgers' face when he got injured. So, I think everybody there is just excited for the potential with this kid. It just hasn't been working out very well. And Treylon Burks could maybe bring something to that passing attack. There for Tennessee, Julio Jones, Darius Slayton, Alec Pierce / Paris Campbell. I don't know. Pick your poison between those two. It's tough to tell from this last week and which one would be the more valuable asset going forward. So just putting them together and you make your decision on which one you like more. Josh Reynolds, DPJ. So I would really not want either. Have to be choosing between one of these two. Josh Reynolds, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Mac Hollins, Mecole Hardman, Zay Jones, Noah Brown. These are all guys that they're usable pickups to use in the week in a pinch, even not in a pinch. A lot of them have had some pretty darn good weeks here and there. So, yeah, we went over those names. And Sky Moore and DJ Shark are just waiting in the... Well, DJ Shark's waiting to get into this with just anything, show me something. And then Sky Moore is a stash play still, but that doesn't really look too good with Kadarius Toney getting added there. And then on to the last position, tight ends. And Robert Tonyan's droppable. I haven't been advocating for him all year. It bit me in the butt once. I don't see it. And I would definitely rather have Greg Dulcich or Evan Ingram on my roster right now. As you can see, I just carried this over from last week because I was trying to convince y'all to pick up Evan Ingram. He's good. Las Vegas, Kansas City bye, and then Baltimore after that, which may be a tougher matchup by then. But it is what it is. Those guys should be on rosters. And then K. Dotton, Harrison Bryant, Isaiah Likely. If Mark Andrews were to be out this week, he could definitely be usable, especially with Bateman out as well. Then Tyler Conklin makes his way back onto the list. I said last week, hey, New York Jets offense might force me to get Conklin back on here. Then Mike Gesicki, Hunter Henry, Logan Thomas, and Noah Fant to round out the rest of the tight ends that you could use, depending on need and matchup and which one you like. So that is that. Peace out, y'all. Happy waiver wire hunting. I'll see you in the ratings videos.